Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to Dude, I Love That. I'm Liv, and today we're continuing the summer throwback series with probably one of the funniest Nickelodeon shows that I maybe not grew up watching so much, but definitely watched a lot, Victorious. And I don't know about you, but when Zoe 101 ended, I needed more Victoria Justice in my life, and seeing her as Shelby Marks on iCarly just was not enough. So here we are. Fun fact, I actually remember when the show premiered, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. So, anyways, let's jump into these characters because there is a lot to cover. So, starting off with Tori, I was going back and forth between a 6 and a 9 for her. So basically I had like the Chase Matthews thing all over again. And I ended up going with a 6.7 for her because you see throughout the series that she definitely has this kind of neurotic, like worried personality. And again, not to buy into caricatures of types. You know, we don't like to do that here. But as a 6, I see a lot of things in her that I'm like, yeah, I do that too. And it's sometimes not the cutest, but it's just what it is. And of course, she's incredibly loyal. She never wants to like take someone's spotlight. And we see that happen a couple of times where she's put in a position where she kind of has to, and she's like, I don't want to be doing this. Like, what do I do? But she always rises to the occasion and pulls on her 3. And if you've never heard me talk about the connection for a 6 and a 3 before, 6 goes to 3 in stress. And that also can look like when a situation happens and you're being told you have to perform, you rise to the occasion. And typically 6s will do well in the moment stress. It's whenever it's like in your head stress that it really is a problem, or anxiety, I guess you could also call it that. But I know for me, when I used to do some acting and stuff like that, whenever it would come to the actual moment, I was able to do it. But leading up to it was like a total disaster. And so I think I see a lot of that for her with throughout the series. And then I also want to talk tri-types because I think that's important for these characters because there's several characters that I would imagine people would have different types for. But I think the answer is in the tri-type. So if you've never heard me talk about tri-types, I actually delve into that more in the, I believe the, or not the aquamarine, the H2O episode. That's the one where I try and always focus on either tri-types or subtypes per episode. And for that one, I did that. And then I wanted to do it here because I think it gives more of a full picture. And if you've never ever heard me talk about tri-types and you're just like, okay, give me a quick rundown. Tri-type is, I'll give mine as an example. So there's 3 triads, right, within the Enneagram. You've got the gut, feelings, and head. And so the gut center is 8s, 9s, and 1s. The heart center is 2s, 3s, and 4s. And then the head center is 5, 6, and 7. And so basically your tri-type is which type from each of those 3 triads do you most feel like applies to you. So for me, my main type is a type 6. And then from the gut triad, I'm most similar to a type 8. And then from the heart triad, I'm most similar to a type 4. And what that means is there are enough things from each of those types. I agree with a lot of things of the type 4. I agree with a lot of things about type 8. And so that's where it gives you a full presentation of who you are as a unique individual versus more of like, this is my type, I'm a 6, and that's like all there is. It's like a little bit more of a melding together of different qualities of each of the types. So hopefully that's a good enough overview for you as we head into the other characters. But for Tori, I decided that she's probably a 692. Also, if you see me looking down on the video version on Spotify or YouTube, I have my notes down here, so bear with me. But that's why, I think I was going back and forth on that 9 for a while. And then I realized that she really doesn't try and keep the peace so much. She definitely has a little bit more edge to her. If she was a 9, she'd be a 9 wing 8, but I'll get into why I don't think she is because I think another character is a 9 wing 8 and I feel like they embody it more. And then when I go through that, hopefully you'll see the difference between Tori and this other character. And then I also chose a 2 as part of her tri-type from the heart or the feelings triad because she really does care about people. She's willing to go out of her way for them and put herself last to put her friends first. And we even see that happen with like Jade, who she doesn't really like and who treats her poorly, but she keeps showing up and treating her as well as she can. And I think that's a large testament to her as a person and her personality. So that's why I chose a 692 for Tori. And again, she's a 6 with a 7 wing because remember in previous episodes, 6 wing fives are definitely more reserved, introverted, curious, questioning. We don't see her do that as much as we see her just like kind of jump into things like out of anxiety. And as a 6 wing 7 myself, I can say, well, I have equal wings, but I do lean more on my 7 when I'm with others. And so I can genuinely say I see a lot of things with her that I also do. And so I feel like I can be pretty honest when I say that she's a 6 wing 7. Okay, now that I thought about it, I'm going to talk about the other character that I believe is a 9 wing 8 because it'll be a good contrast to Tori. So I love this character. I think Beck is hilarious. And you see throughout the series, he really is like even keeled. Things happen to him and he's just like, whatever. It's like the character, what is his name, Dwayne from Full House, that just always says whatever, like he never says anything else. That's kind of how I feel about Beck. He just is a very even-keeled young man, and we love that. And so for him, being a 9 wing 8 to me means he pulls from that 8 to be very witty and funny, and he'll push back. Like if enough happens, he'll throw down the gauntlet, you know? But for the most part, he's very calm, steady, stable. Can you imagine putting up with Jade? She seems crazy at times. And so the only person that could really keep up with that is a 9. And I think Beck is the perfect embodiment of a 9 that uses his growth and stress points really equally, because 9s have a connection to 3 and health, which we see him use when he performs and does stuff. And then 9s also can go to 6 and stress, and they do pull on that kind of questioning, working through problems, big problem solvers. And the episode that I think of when I think of that is my favorite. I think this is my all-time. No, it's not. It's my second favorite episode, when they get trapped in Beck's RV. He's kind of like, well, let's try this, let's do that. And then people are asking him questions and he's like, no, we can't because of this, we can't because of that. And I'm like, oh yes, that is a 9 going to 6 for sure. But also, I think people tend to have this idea that 9s are just lazy sloths and they just are super agreeable and don't bring many opinions to the table. And this is a woefully uninformed opinion, because a lot of times 9s have a lot of opinions and they are able to bring some great ideas and see all points of view, because as a 9 they have qualities of all of the 9 types because they sit like at the top of the Enneagram. And so they usually can give really great advice. They make great therapists, and they're the kind of one that you want to go to when you need to bounce ideas off of somebody. And so for Beck, he kind of is the one that everyone goes to when crap hits the fan, and he's like, look, you either got to do this or you got to do that. And you're going to have to pick one and be okay with it. And the other thing is, 9s are very witty. They're some of the funniest on the Enneagram, and they usually get downplayed. And I'll give you an example of this. My 7th grade science teacher was so funny, but the problem was his humor is very dry and very sarcastic, but like not with a lot of inflection. Probably just another term for dry humor, whatever. Anyways, I was the only one in the class that actually got his humor. And so I was like sitting there cracking up, and other people were looking like, what was it? And so a lot of times 9s gets overlooked for their humor. And it's like, they are hilarious and so witty, but sometimes because they're so calm, it like lulls you in, and then you end up not laughing with them. And it's sad. But 9s are very funny. And if you keep a lookout for it, you will get some great one-liners. Okay, now that we just talked about Beck, let's move on to Jade. And this one gets me because I think most people would assume that she's a type 4. I want to challenge that because I think she's actually an 8. But oh my gosh, wait, I'm so sorry. I did not talk about Beck's tri-type. No, let me go back. I think Beck is a 9-4-5. So that means I think his core type is a 9, and that's in the gut triad. And then I think his second type is a type 4, and that's from the heart triad or the feelings triad. And then I also think that he has a type 5 from the head triad. And so I don't know. I see that he has his own like unique sense of self. He doesn't need anything that he does to be validated by others, which feels very fourish to me. And then also he has the calm, inquisitive demeanor of a 5. And 5s are really interesting because most types in the head triad do deal with anxiety. 5s deal with it the least, and I don't really sense any anxiety with Beck at all. Okay, now we can move on to Jade. So like I said, I think most people would assume that she is a type 4. I think she's an 8, and that's because she is so forceful. She really just barrels ahead and does what she wants. And she's also very controlling. Like she will make you do what she wants you to do. And, eights are powerful like that. They come in big. They got big personalities. And let's just say Jade slaps you in the face when she walks in a room. Like she just has that presence and she knows what's right for her. And like that's what she goes for, which is again, very eight, right? They're in the gut triad. So they act from the gut. Like they know something and they just barrel ahead. The other thing that could be, which I think is an interesting thing to point out, sexual or one-to-one subtype fours often get mistyped for a type 8 because sexual fours or one-to-one fours, again, I try not to use the S word too much in case the podcast were to get, an explicit rating, but one-to-one subtype fours are very forceful, very bold and intense. And I think sometimes that can be misconstrued for like the 8 boldness, but yet they're very different. Again, like I said, the 8 acts from the gut and they just like feel something and go. The 4 is going to come more from a place of feeling and then acting, and maybe acting out of a sense of sadness, anger, loneliness, whatever it may be. They're going to be acting more out of a feeling versus this like intuition and then knowing and then going for it because they know that that's right. Hopefully that's making sense. I'm trying to explain it the best way I can, but it's very different. Now, the other interesting thing, if I'm remembering correctly right now, the one-to-one subtype 8 can sometimes come off as a 4. The one-to-one subtype 8 is the most powerful, the most intense, and sometimes that can come off as the intensity and the moodiness and the somewhat volatile side of a one-to-one subtype 4. And so, again, if you are a one-to-one subtype, you are going to be more passionate, more intense than the other two subtypes, which are self-preserving and social. So there's room for play there, depending on what Jade is and like her health level, because that also plays in. So like if she was a one-to-one subtype 4, her health level is going to play into what's going on. But at the end of the day, I really do think Jade is an 8. And I think that's proven in each episode where, she does act very intensely. She is possessive over Beck. And again, like this is just kind of how that one-to-one 8 is. They are more possessive of their significant other. And like none of this is bad, by the way, of what I'm saying, because I know some people, I guess Jade is supposed to be like the villain. I love Jade. I think she's freaking hilarious, but that's just me. So yeah, I think there's more to back up her being an 8 than a 4, but there with subtypes, there are nuances. And so it could go either way at the end of the day. And then for a wing, I think she'd be an 8 wing 9 because she really does kind of want like inner peace, right? And that's why I think she is controlling, if that makes sense. Like she wants something to go the way that she's envisioning and the way that feels comfortable for her. So she's going to drag you along and make you go this way so that she can experience peace. That sounds kind of odd and it comes out of a very unpeaceful place, but that's what I think her motive is. And that's why it's so funny to see Beck, who's like a 9 wing 8, with Jade, who's an 8 wing 9, and they kind of go back and forth. And that 9 wing 8 is always having the struggle between the peace and the challenging spirit of the 8. So I think he almost lets Jade do some of the fighting and some of the challenging because like she obviously gets a kick out of it and he's like, go for it. And then Jade's like going to him for more of that like peace and calm. And also really quick, Jade's tri-type, I think she's an 8, 4, 5. And again, kind of like with Beck, they have very similar tri-types. I think that Jade is, for the most part, she has her little niche things that she loves. I already explained why I think she's a 4. She definitely has an individualistic style. She doesn't need people to validate what she's doing. She just feels like, I want to be me. I'm going to be like crazy and bold and like goth and get over it, which we love. And then, yeah, she feels like she has that 5 niche interest, her little areas that she enjoys, and she knows a lot about her areas of interest, which is very 5-ish. Okay, let's hit the last 3 really quick. So we're going to move on to Andre. I also very much love Andre. He is so funny. Andre, I said, was probably a 3 wing 2. And I think he's like a very healthy 3 who's probably a self-preserving or a one-to-one subtype 3. I definitely don't think he's a social 3. I've mentioned and talked about at length social 3s in previous episodes, so I'm going to kind of bounce over that one. But I think that he definitely sees success because remember, 3s want success. Like that's kind of what they aim for. And so I think he does see success more in relational terms, which is going to be more of a self-preserving or a one-to-one three type thing. And so that's my guess there. Also, the two wing, because he is a giver, he's a lover, he's so funny. And then his tri-type, I think, is probably a 3, 7, 8. And I say that because he likes to do different things and he's always down for like an adventure. I think of the episode Ice Cream for Kesha. That is like he's down for pretty much anything. Whenever Tori needs him, he's there. Like he's just got it. And then I also think he's an 8 because his humor is so witty and hilarious and he's not afraid to challenge somebody, you know? He does it in like a very loving way, but he will also roast you and like probably because you deserve it, you know? And he's always the one kind of bringing up like multiple sides and going, what about this? What about that? Like you said you were going to. And so that's where I think he gets a little bit of that 8, 7 going on. And again, it's so funny because threes can sometimes be mistyped for a 7 or an 8 and vice versa. And so that's a very powerful tri-type. You know, that's a lot happening with that tri-type. And I think if he wasn't using his creativity so much like as an outlet, and if he wasn't as healthy as he was, that could be a very volatile tri-type if someone was in lower health levels. But like I said, he's really healthy. He's got a great group of friends. He's passionate about what he does. And he's just like on top of the world. So go Andre. Love Andre. Okay, Kat. This one I don't think I need to explain too much. She's definitely got a lot of 7-2 going on. You know who she reminds me of? Except he is not ditzy like this, but she reminds me of Justin Anderson. I love Justin. I think he's so funny and his Instagram stories are to die for. But Kat definitely kind of reminds me of him in a way of they have like boundless energy. And I've talked about this before, but did you know that 7s are actually not the most energetic type on the Enneagram? It's actually a 2. And I think Kat could go either way. She doesn't feel very head typey, but she also feels like seeking adventure, seeking pleasure, seeking all of those things versus the 2 who seeks love and puts themselves last and others first. So, you know, it goes back and forth. She's definitely got a strong 7 and a strong 2. And that's why I gave her the tri type of a 7-9. And the reason why I chose 9 is because she really does want everyone to get along. She wants there to be no problems in the friend group. And she also is willing to like let problems go and slide so that she doesn't have to feel her peace being disrupted, which understandable in crazy times. So yeah, I don't know. If she's a 7, then she's got to be a one-to-one subtype 7 because they see life through rose-colored lenses. They have a more of a childlike air about them, and they can mistype as a 2. Also, the social 7 can mistype as a 2 as well. But the one-to-one 7 is kind of more like 4-2, whereas the social 7 is going to be more of that proper 2, giving, loving type of a 7. And then Robbie, to finish this all off, Robbie is one of those characters that is going to be really difficult for me because we have to think about he's the one that is supposed to be like also Rex, and Rex is a savage roasting son of a gun. I love Rex so much. Probably my favorite character other than I don't know, I love them all, but still. Robbie, if we think about him also doing, you know, the personality for Rex, if that makes sense, then that kind of throws a wrench in things because that like adds a whole nother layer to the equation of trying to figure out what type he is. So I look and I'm like, well, he's very neurotic and nervous. And in a way, he kind of reminds me of like the male Tory. And so I lean towards him being a 6. And I think also if you look at that, maybe like he's a self-preserving 6 and Rex is like a one-to-one 6, the counterphobic 6. I don't know. He seems more like a 6 wing 5 to me. The funny thing about him is he will get talked into anything. And I feel like a 6 would be more on guard and like, why are you trying so hard to talk me into this? Like, that's weird. Whereas the 9, because that's the other type I considered for him, and a 2, I considered all that for him. I feel like the 9 would be more like, my friend wants me to do this. Like, I'm going to do it to help them and to keep the peace. And I love them. And the 2 is going to be like, I'll do anything for you. Even if I've just met you, like, I will help you. I will like lay myself on the line for you. And so I don't think he's quite as devoted as the 2. I think a lot of what he does comes out of more of like anxiety and like a weird sense of loyalty. Even though the other people maybe don't treat him the best, he like is still going to be loyal, which is something that 6s deal with. They can be loyal to a fault. And so I think that's probably more of him. Again, anxiety kind of off the charts. And he's constantly berated. This is the interesting thing too. Like, is Robbie a one whose inner critic is coming out in Rex? That's an interesting point. That's interesting. That might be the case. That's very fascinating to think about. I mean, that could be it. I don't know. I lean more, well, okay. The anxiety is really what's tripping me up. If he's a 6, he's probably a self-preserving 6. If he's a 1, he's probably a self-preserving 1, because the self-preserving 1 has the most anxiety out of the type 1s. So that would be an interesting part. And I think also if the inner critic is kind of, quote, coming out in Rex, and that's how he's receiving that criticism, then that would make sense for him being a 1. And then for his tri-type, I would say he's probably a 692, because those are the other types that I mentioned trying to figure out if he was. So anyways, I really hope that you enjoyed this episode. Hopefully you loved Victorious as much as I did and still do. I like to watch it on my lunch break. But anyways, be sure and check back for a new episode. And also, if you are like, oh my gosh, this was so fun learning about these types, I want to know my type. I'm holding summer sessions right now, which is different from like the normal sessions that I do. But what we're going to do is we're going to find your type, find your tri-type, which is what we talked about today, and your subtype, and figure out how all of that plays into your career, your school life, your personal life, your family, all that good stuff. And it's going on now through end of July. So be sure and check it out. I'll put the post right here. And if you're listening or watching to this, if you're listening or watching this after the end of July when summer sessions are ended, be sure and schedule a package or an individual session with me, and we'll go over all this fun info together anytime. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.